into this video, I'll show you a path to gain 200 rating points. Yes, you heard it here, and I'll show you the way. Now, let's be clear, you won't become Magnus with my tips, but clearly, you're gonna be able to win more games and rating points. So first, tactics. LPDO, loose pieces drop out, double attack pattern, and then triangles. That will be for the middle game, followed by opening tips. But loose pieces drop out. What does that mean? Okay, here's a concrete example. White to play. What would you do? I will give you a few seconds. Congrats if you found the solution. So loose pieces drop out. You're looking for unprotected pieces. The bishop on c6 is not protected. If the rook were to be on c8, it would be. But in this case, the bishop on c6 is not protected. But the queen on f3 is also unprotected. So you have two candidate pieces you can try to win. Now, can you win by doing a knight e7 check? That would win that piece, except that the bishop here would take. So that is not the answer. Can you win the queen on f3? The answer is yes. And the winning move is bishop h7 check, discovery. Now the king would take, and you simply win the whole queen and the game. So this is very important. When in this position, you scan for the pieces. In some other games, you may be able to win that piece. And in this example, you were able to win a whole queen. So that's principle number one. Lose pieces, drop out. Let's go to principle number two. Why do I recommend to study double attack patterns? Well, the answer is right here. GM Yasser Serra1, 4-time US champion, also former World Junior Chess Champion. So a true legend of the game, and he did write in his book, Winning Chess Tactics, that one of the most common patterns in combination and tactics is the double attack. So if you master that, you will definitely spot more tactics and win more games. Now, let's see a not so easy example showcasing the double attack pattern. And here, a position to solve, white to play and win. Congrats if you find the entire tactics, which is several moves deep. The first move, rook f7, attacking the queen and the king, so the queen has to take. Only now you take on c6. If the king recapture, here we go. That's a fork, but also a double attack. And you're winning the queen on f7. Therefore here, the king shall not take on c6 and retreat on d8. And now, we follow the same pattern, rook c8 check. Now, if the king takes, we have a beautiful fork. And this time, we capture like that with a winning endgame. And in this position, if the king doesn't take the rook on c8 and play king e7, in this case, you do some kind of double attack where you attack the king, and after the king moves wherever, you also win the queen and the game. So here, several patterns, but this is all possible with the winning move rook f7 because of double attacks down the line. Now let's go to the triangles courtesy of Hikaru.
At any rate, let's keep going. Queen f1 check. This was easy. Ra 9268, great move, but that is wrong, very wrong. Queen f1 is not the correct move. So after queen f1, white goes bishop g1, and you're probably losing. The correct move here is to go queen to c1 check. Again, let's go through the process. So you have you have one less pawn. First of all, you can capture some pawns, but it doesn't really matter that much. But then you start looking for checks, and there are a couple of checks. You have queen f1 check and queen c1 check. Now queen f1 does look right, but white plays bishop g1, and you're probably in trouble. Whereas after queen c1 check, it's the classic It's the classic right triangle, as we all know, where you hit the king and then you capture because your pawn supports the queen. Okay, so check, take, and now again you take, and it's an endgame. I use 2 rooks and a bishop. He has a rook and a bishop.
So let me try to unpack what happened. Yes, Hikaru find the move Queen C1, winning the game thanks to not so easy tactics to find. But how did he get there? This is where I'm showing you a diagram on the right side with a right triangle. In the video, Hikaru says that's a classic right triangle. In H1, you have the king, and looking at C1 and H6, that's a triangle and a right angle triangle from H1. So now let me demonstrate that on the main board. We do Queen C1, we do a double attack with check on H1, and the queen comes back to pick up the rook. And by drawing this last arrow, I have a perfect right triangle right there. Now you have to keep in mind that that triangle is a result of 2 things. First, this rook is unprotected, so can be picked up. Lose pieces, drop out. Second, by moving the queen over here, we have a double attack. Check and picking up the rook. And finally, to spot this geometric feature, you have to spot the right triangle, H1, C1, and H6. And I have displayed here in red the right angle triangle, so-called right triangle. With these 3 tips, you can definitely perform better. Try to practice puzzles, doing tactics, and after that, try to use these cutting-edge techniques in your own games, and within a matter of weeks, you should gain significant rating points. Let me know in the comments if you applied that and what was your experience doing that. Next, let's switch on openings real quick. Now, I want to spend a bit of time on the opening. I truly believe that tactics are very important. If you're ready anywhere between 1500 to 2400, tactics is a sure way to pick up points. But you should spend a bit of time on the openings, because if you are getting into a trap, you may have a very bad position out of the opening. No matter how good you are in tactics and combination, you may not survive. My recommendation, go off the beaten path at some point, and also have traps and recipes handy, especially in blitz and rapid. And on my channel, I have a lot of examples with white and black, following GM games, how to set up traps for your opponent. Now, let's go as an example here when I take the Sicilian. So I'm not recommending here to go, A3 right away. You can still do knight F3, which is the main move, and D6. So you can start to play the opening theory, and at some point, I recommend you go off the beaten path. Principle number 1. And here, knight C3 is certainly not as played as D4, not as common as C3, and not as common as bishop B5. So knight C3, knight F6, and here it's up to you how you want to continue. Hikaru Nakamura has played D4, and he goes back into the main theory. But here on move 6 in a Najdorf, instead of playing bishop E3 or bishop G5 or even F4, he uncorks a fairly unknown move A4. His opponent, Alireza Firouzja. So we're talking Firouzja, absolutely top talent. And they play a game like that, and simply bishop C4, and after a few moves, you can see that white is controlling the D5 square. The rook here is well positioned. You have a nice queen on E2. And if I continue a little bit the game, in here, Hikaru play quickly knight H4. So not only black cannot play D5, but white can play knight F5. It's very good to have a knight on this square. And after that, black was forced to take like that, and white ended up winning the game. Now, another way to play this position here is not to play d4, but to play e5. Black will take, And because this knight is annoying, knight bd7 is by far the most common reply. And here you can set up a trick. g4. Black seems to be doing well because knight g4, attacking e2, and f2. And from f2, we have a double attack. Did we fall into an obvious tactics? Not at all. Bishop check. And here, a brilliant move. Why to play, and you have prepared this before the game, and you push e6. And now black is utterly confused. Should black take on b5? What about taking on f2 check, winning the rook? And what about taking like that? What should black do? Not so easy to solve. And let's take a look at knight f2 check first. And here, check, you take, and now black has captured a rook on h1. In this position is dead loss for black. You give a check, you capture a rook, and here you play bishop f4. With white, you have two ideas. Double attack, because once you're capturing that knight has no escape square. And two, you're preparing to get back your knight into the game. So the knight on h1 is lost. The one on a8 survives the games and wins. Now in this position, if you were to play bishop take, now you're threatening check, black will castle, and here you're protecting f2. One game went like that. Black was scared about the knight coming on e4, and the game didn't last more than two more moves. Black tried to develop his last piece, but forget about this elegant checkmate. Now, granted, this is a blitz game, but still, you have here a very elegant checkmate in 16 moves. It turns out that the best move is to play f take e6, but here you play king e2 followed by knight e4 and rook g1, and you have a very nice game because these pieces here are lacking coordination. By studying this position a little bit, you will also have a better position. So overall, my recommendation, knight c3 followed by e5, a very interesting way to follow less common path in the opening. And I'd like to offer one more important tip. Don't try to memorize the lines and all the moves, but get a feel for where your pieces shall go. And how does that work? Well, on my channel, I have several videos with the CC and Ken. And here I have shown where each piece is most likely to go with black. So you know your pawn breaks, where your knight may go, your bishops, and even your queen. I've highlighted the most natural squares where your pieces will end up in the opening. That's super useful. But I can show you another example with the white pieces. Let's say you play e4, e5, and you prepare the Joko piano. So this is how the game would go. In here, let's say that's very natural. And let's say that black play castle. Here, what you do is you don't necessarily learn all the different moves, but you know that your knight will go to f1, then to g3, then to f5. This knight over here can even go to h4 or play h3 and then h2. So you kind of know where your pieces go. So how would that work? Let's say you do knight f1, and then you do h3, h6, knight g3, let's say bishop e6, and now you would go, let's say, castle, rook e8, knight h2, and then, I don't know, queen d7, and here you will be ready to do queen f3, and even exchange like that, And here you're ready to do knight f5. And all of a sudden, you have this great attack and you have a better position. But it's all come from here. You kind of know where your pieces will develop and you have a plan in mind. That's how you can study the game. And again, on my channel, you have several videos with a Joko piano with white, this position that you have after g3, with, once again, a lot of different ideas you can implement and play quickly. So I hope you enjoy these 6 tips in various ways to get your rating up and score more points and enjoy the game of chess. See you in the next one.